you think it's horizontal or would it be vertical? I'm just wondering.
That's really near the lake. It might be a closed loop in the lake. I mean, it's very site specific what we're going to see. I mean, you give me a scenario, but I would need more information to say whether it was. No, I'm just saying, right? It's very site specific. You know, when we bury this horizontal loop, I need to be at 5-6 foot depth below. Okay, so can I dig down that far, right? If we go, as I mentioned on Tuesday, we go towards Gananoque, right? The Canadian Shield comes above the ground. Never mind that we got 6 inches of ground cover, right? Yeah, I know. I mean, still, I mean, I don't know whether there's a rock shelf there, right? That I can only dig down 3 feet, right? So that becomes part of the issue when you do this, right? And that's why you get accredited firms to come out and they will conduct a site visit because they're going to look at and have that experience and knowledge that we talked about, right? You have experienced contractors, so he's done an installation, you know, half a kilometer down the road. He knows what kind of geological constraints that he might be dealing with, okay? And I mean, we can go, of course, yeah, towards, say, Wilton, right? And we hit, of course, there's a large sand extraction business there, right? So there's obviously a large sand pocket there. Now, how far does that extend? I don't personally know, but hopefully that contractor you bring in is able to do that determination. So he may be able to hit that sand, right? Whereas just another half a kilometer down the road or another 100 meters down the road, he might be hitting the rock that's there, right? We're living close to the shield. We're going to have those different types of pockets in terms of our soil conditions. And that's going to change our determination here on which type of loop we're going to have.
With floor heating, I suppose you have to put in an extra floor cover. Would you use the moving air or use a heat exchanger and deliver the heat to piping?
Well, we can deliver the heat in different ways as well, right? The heat that's being produced, whether it's through hydronic and in-floor heating or through rads on the wall or whether we're doing it through traditional air movement.
Retrofit then for standard house with standard ducting.
Well, we're moving it through the normal registers still. I mean, it's just another type of heating system.
Well, if you didn't want to do it that way because of the cool air.
You could have various options. There's various options on the house. Yeah, there's various options there. Here's a slinky style, which is what you would see at Fifth. This is how they did Fifth Town Artisans Cheese in Wapus in the county. It's through a coil section. Okay, requires less land, less trenching. Okay, still more land than the vertical loop though. Here's when we look at ground temperatures, okay? The green line is our variation in outdoor air temperature. Black line, there's your ground temperature variation at 2 feet down. Blue line, 5 feet down, where we want to be burying that loop beyond. We want to bury the loop between that blue line and that red line, right? Less variation, the better the efficiency on the system. Okay? Installation issues, as we said. So now we got to decide, are we in the vertical loop, a horizontal loop, a surface water loop? Are we able to put a closed loop in the pond? We got a pond beside our house. We want to put the closed loop in there. I need at least 8 feet of water in that pond. Otherwise, we're going to freeze the pond. Right? Did you have a question, George? No, basically building code says it cannot be buried under within a certain distance of your septic system, right? Okay. Yeah, no. You're going to look, as I mentioned, you're going to look at your ground properties. What's the soil type? What's the rock type? What's the moisture content, right? Are you near the water? Is the water table high in that piece of property, low in that piece of property? Because if that water content changes how much pipe I need, okay? How long of that loop needs to be. And that becomes our borehole heat exchanger design, right? How's our layout of our boreholes or piping? What type of heat transfer fluid do we want to utilize in there? We have some different choices on concentrations of glycol mixtures, okay? When we're drilling holes, though, what do our neighbors think of the noise, right? Do we have constraints in our municipality around the noise that we're going to create? What's the cleanup issues, right, if I'm drilling boreholes? What's the access? Can that truck get in the backyard to drill the holes, right? Or are you now drilling into your paved driveway out front? I've seen pictures in Toronto, right, where they're drilling the boreholes right in the front of the yard, in through the pavement, okay? Those are additional costs, right? If we're going to drill in through our paved driveway, now we got to repave part of the driveway. Here's the horizontal loop, right? Big amount of space, okay? That's a coiled slinky style. We're still looking at that large space being utilized. It's fine if the horizontal loop, if you're building the house, right, and we dug up half of the property anyway, then hopefully we're able to put in this horizontal loop at that point. Yeah. It's a lot of, you'll see the numbers, right, later on. But I mean, it's thousands of feet of pipe, right, that we're burying.
What are the dimensions of that hole? That hole is big.
I know. Yeah, it's just a picture to me. You can see the little man in the middle,
Yeah.
right? It's fairly big. I mean, this is probably a big house, like a 5,000 square foot house or something, as you can see in the background, right? Those aren't little houses that are in that subdivision.
From the house.
How far away does it need to be from the house? That's not too much of a factor, actually. You can be towards your house. It's not far away in that picture, right? It can be up. It's really going to be, what's the landscaping cost after we're done this, right? We have to backfill all that as well. We're going to pay for that.
And what happens if something goes wrong with one little section of that 1,000 feet of pipe?
Well, then we're going to be looking for that leak and digging that up. No, I mean truthful. Yes, you would. Yes, and that's why now they have they'll have 50-year warranties though on the loop, just so you're aware, right?
Right, you still have to get it long. Even though someone's going to pay for it, you still have to.
Yes, yes, that's right.
It doesn't have a garden on this, but a neighbor's tree, how would that affect it?
Well, a neighbor's tree could obviously affect our loop, right? It could damage our loop. I mean, that's those issues, right? That's some of the issues that's happening, as the fellow said in the back, about our Kingston's official plan. One of the things in Kingston's official plan is in regards to geo-exchange geothermal heat pump systems, right? You need a permit from the city because they need to know where these buried services are, for one thing, for their future work, right? So.
Have you heard anything about in Germany where they use a lot of these because of their power needs?
Mm-hmm.
That there's some effect on the permafrost?
Yeah, well, that's the issue, like with that heat buildup, right? And that you have to do a proper design and put this in properly because you're going to affect things, as George was asking around the septic. You wouldn't want to freeze your septic system up because you're drawing too much heat out of the ground